Chinese people seem to think that living in North America is a dream come true. Well, let me be the first to tell you, you are absolutely wrong. Let's talk about it. 大家好，我是 Suran 在中国. Hey everyone, it's Suran in China. How y'all doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic day. The weather here in Shenzhen has been great. It has been getting cooler and making going outside just that much more pleasant. You know what else is really pleasant and I'm enjoying a lot is the fact that the channel is growing and we're at almost 10,000 subscribers now. I'd love to be able to hit 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and you can really help. All you've got to do is, if you're not a subscriber already, is hit that subscribe button below. And if you like the content that I'm making, do a guy a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to find my videos and share them with more people. And if you happen to be in China or planning on visiting China, and you need to get around the Great Firewall, or you're looking for an option to get around geo-blocking, or even just to have a little bit more safety and security on your own internet connection, especially when you're outside of the home and on public networks, I'd like to recommend a VPN service called SimpleLink. It's really reliable. It works great. I use it on all my PCs and devices. The pricing is excellent. And if you happen to be in China, you can even pay with Alipay or WeChat, which is fantastic and so much easier than a lot of the other payment options. But for now, let's get to today's video. Now, today's video, we're going to talk about some very common misconceptions that Chinese people have about life in North America, and in my case, Canada in particular. Now, a lot of Chinese people have said to me in the past, why on earth would you want to come live in China and specifically stay here for the rest of your life when Canada is such an amazing place and it's just so much better? Well, I asked them why they think that. And honestly, the only thing they can tell me is, well, that's what I heard, or that's what I've seen in TV shows and movies. But honestly, they're following the grass is always greener on the other side philosophy, where they don't really know what life is actually like over there. They just think they do based on popular media. Now, when I ask them if they've ever been to Canada or know anybody that's been to Canada, they typically will say no. Yet almost every student, coworker, family member, friend, associate, etc., that I've ever had in China seems to think that living in Canada and America is so much better. Well, let me be the first to tell you, you are dead wrong. Let me explain. Now, one of the most common misconceptions I hear is that everybody in Canada has a great big house and a big yard with a white picket fence and a double garage and a garden and so much space, and it's cheap and easy to buy a house in Canada. This is based on the fact that they believe that since Canada is such a large country, therefore, land is easily accessible and cheap for everyone. That's really just not the case. In fact, the vast majority of Canadian land space is unlivable. It is completely inhospitable to human life, whether it's a northern tundra or the boreal forests or the mountains, etc., etc. It's just not as openly available to human habitation as people might think. A lot of those places don't have roads or any type of infrastructure, no utilities, no shops, no homes, nothing. And the people that do live in those places lead a very, very difficult and hard life. They're typically only there for very specific purposes. So, like most other countries, in Canada, the population is concentrated into small areas known as, you guessed it, cities. And when it comes to concentrating people into cities, that severely reduces the amount of land which is available. And whereas in the past, when I was a younger man, yes, we had a big house with a big yard and a big garden, but that's just simply not the case anymore. New development has been making the houses smaller. closer together and with much, much smaller yards in order to maximize on the real estate potential value as opposed to the living space for the people purchasing those properties. On top of that, a lot of the available land now is not owned by private citizens. It's owned by corporate real estate agencies and private investors who use that land to their full advantage, not the advantage of the people. So, land that used to be quite affordable and easy for any family to own a home back 50 years ago simply is not the case anymore. Housing has become so expensive and so scarce that there is literally a housing crisis all across North America. Due to the large number of immigrants coming into both countries, Canada and America, the real estate collectives, these corporations taking over all of the available land and not building affordable housing, it has created a situation in economics that follows the law of supply and demand. If you keep the supply low and the demand high, then the value goes up tremendously. And wealthy people and corporations in Canada are taking advantage of this. So if you are a working class, or as they're known now, the working poor in Canada, you simply can't afford to own a new home. You can probably barely afford to rent a home for you and your family. And it is ridiculous how expensive it has become. Now, if you are a Chinese person coming to North America with a vast fortune, if you are very, very wealthy, great. You can afford to buy a beautiful house. You can afford to pay all the extra taxes. You can afford all the expenses that come with it. But for the average people, this is a dream that will never come true. A sad reality, but a reality nonetheless. Now, another thing that I hear from Chinese people is that, oh, in Canada, they have free healthcare. Well, you get what you pay for. Let me put it that way. And to top it off, the healthcare in Canada is not free. This is a joke that I've been hearing forever. As somebody who's taken a tax preparer course, to see exactly how income taxes and taxes charged by the government are broken down, I've seen firsthand that taxes include your healthcare, and it is not cheap. You spend thousands of dollars per year per person on healthcare that you are having less and less access to. And the reason I say that is healthcare in Canada and in America is in a crisis state, meaning that doctors and nurses are leaving the countries in droves because their salaries are very low and they're incredibly overworked. And this is because the governments of both America and now more so in Canada are trying to move away from a socialized healthcare system to a privatized for profit healthcare system. And what happens here is you have emergency rooms and hospitals and medical clinics all across the country closing down in huge, huge numbers. And this leads to overcrowding and incredibly long wait times for healthcare in the existing centers. Now, the average wait time in an emergency room in a hospital to see a doctor in Canada has jumped up to 20 plus hours. So that means if you get into a car accident or have a heart attack or have some serious accident, you could be dead before you have the opportunity to even try to get help. Now, am I making this up? Absolutely not. It has happened to my very own sister, who was in a terrible car accident and sat in the emergency room of the hospital in a pool of her own blood for more than 20 hours waiting to see a doctor. Now, she was very lucky. She did pull through and she did finally get the help she needed. But across Canada last year in 2023, more than 15,000 people weren't so lucky and lost their lives waiting to get health care, which would have saved them. On top of that, more than 4,000 people last year also died waiting for vital, life-saving surgeries, but they couldn't get it because there simply aren't enough surgeons anymore and not enough surgeons willing to take the work. So this means that people in the tens of thousands across Canada are dying every year because they can't get the health care that they are paying for. I myself am another example of this. For the past 6 years, I have been on a waiting list to get a family doctor, hoping that I can have a doctor that I can see on a regular basis without having to go line up at a hospital or a medical center for more than 24 hours in order to get help. However, I am 6 years into waiting for a doctor willing to accept a new patient, and therefore, with the inability to get a referral to a surgeon, which I do need as I have a hernia, I have been waiting 6 years to have hernia surgery. 6 years, which is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Luckily for me, this surgery is not life threatening. But if this were cancer or a heart condition or a brain condition or some other vital condition, I might have been gone already. And that's a sad reality of healthcare in North America. So, yes, people still seem to believe that healthcare is free, but you get what you pay for. Now, the last thing that I hear all the time is that Canada is so much more safe and the people have freedom in Canada. And this is a really big one for me. So I ask people, what freedom do you think you have in Canada that you don't have in China? Nobody can answer that question because they really aren't sure what freedom really is. Now, they believe, oh, in Canada, you can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want. You have the freedom to live your own life. And so I challenge them. So in China, are you free to get an education? Yes, it's actually mandatory up to grade 12, just like it is in Canada. Well, are you free to pursue higher education? Yes. Are you free to get a job in any field you want and move to any place in China you want? Well, yeah, sure. Are you free to travel around China and go anywhere you want? Yes. Are you free to make as much money as you're willing to work for in China? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Are you free to start clubs or join organizations or pursue recreational activities in China? Yeah. Are you free to speak in public about the government or about things that you don't like? Well, yeah, sure, you are. Are you free to speak online on WeChat and Weibo about things that you don't like? Yes, yes, you are. Are you free to start anti-government organizations, religions, or groups that are against the public health and welfare? No, that's something you're not allowed to do. Okay, so there we go. We found one freedom that people in North America have that people in China don't have. Because in Canada, we also have the freedom to travel, to go abroad, to do whatever job we want, to get whatever education we want, to hang out with anybody we want to enjoy recreational activities, join clubs, join societies, etc., etc. The only real difference is that in Canada and America, we can create organizations like the KKK, the Proud Boys, the Church of Scientology, organizations that are not only very anti government, anti Semitic, racist, or just downright evil, but in Canada and America, we have the right to have those organizations. Whereas I personally believe that I would rather live in a country that does not give people the right to start evil anti-government or religious hate organizations. That's just me personally, but come on. Doesn't it make sense that some of those things shouldn't be allowed? Personally, I would prefer to live in a place that did not have Scientology, the Proud Boys, and the KKK. And as far as safety goes, ridiculous. The biggest complaint I've heard from foreigners in China is that there's cameras everywhere. We have no privacy. Big Brother is watching us. Whoop-de frickin' do. Big Brother can watch me all day long. I'm not a criminal. I'm not doing anything in public that would get me in trouble. So they are welcome to watch me all day long. But what those cameras are doing is preventing crime. I feel 100% safe in China walking down the street at any time of night in any neighborhood, period. I feel 100% safe even for my wife and daughter to do the same thing. I cannot say this about Canada, and especially not America, where gun violence and mass shootings are just going through the roof. It is absolutely ridiculous. There have been more than 500 mass shootings in America in 2024 so far, and there are still 2 months left. 500 mass shootings, not single shootings, not violent crime with guns, not robberies involving guns, mass shootings. And if you add up all the other crime, it has become just insane. It is like living in a dystopian nightmare. There are carjackings, there is gang violence, there are shoplifting gangs, or as they call it here in China, the $0 shopping that is enjoyed in North America. There is violent crime, rape, murder, extortion. All of these things are just out of control in America and Canada. A lot of this is due to the social climate, the mass poverty, the homelessness, and just the desperation of the people that is leading to all this violent activity and this crime. But it is a fact. I am a big man, I'm a strong man, yet I feel 100 times safer here than I ever felt in my entire life back in Canada. I'll take the cameras over the crime any day of the week. So, long story short, when Chinese people tell me that, living in Canada is a dream come true, it's such a great place. The streets are paved with gold, everybody's rich, everybody has a big house and 2 dogs and a yard and 3 cars and yada, 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 yada. I'm sorry to say it's bullshit. They've never been there and they've never seen it. I show them pictures, I show them videos. I make these videos to talk about the difference between life in China and Canada, specifically because not only do Western people have misconceptions about China being dirty, unsafe, backwards, unhealthy place to live, Chinese people have the same misconceptions about Canada, just in reverse, that Canada is the best place on the planet to live. But let me ask you, if Canada was the best place on the planet to live, why did my family and I move back to China? Anyhow, thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. Thank you so much for helping the channel to grow. Remember, throw me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button before you go. And if you have any ideas for new videos, let me know in the comments below and I will take a look at it and I will see what I can do. Thanks, everyone. We will see you in the next one. Zai Jen.